Now there are times in our code where we want to validate the values that can be assigned to the properties of our class. What I have created in front of me here is a completely empty Unity scene, and I have a MyProperties class that I have coded. Let me just show you that in MonoDevelop, and you'll see that it's a pretty empty and simple class. In fact, it contains only one property, only one variable, and that is a percent variable. Now I have assigned this class to the camera in my scene, so I'm going to select that in the hierarchy panel, and you will see in the object inspector that we have our percent value here. Now there are different ways of expressing the value of percentage. Let's say that I expect the percentage here to be expressed in decimal form. So a value of 1 means 100%, and a value of 0.5 is 50%. Now of course some other developer could come along here, see this percentage value and think, oh, I want to enter in a value of 75%, so he just types in the value 75, when actually he should be typing 0.75. So there is a confusion about the value that should be entered here. This expects a decimal form, but it's very easy for somebody to come along and just enter in a complete number like this. And there are times when we want to validate the information that a developer can enter into the properties of our class. And we can use a C# feature called properties to achieve this validation. So I'm going to jump back into MonoDevelop and display our class here. And in fact, I'm going to completely delete this percentage line here, and I'm going to be recoding the way that our property works. So to start using properties in the case of our percentage example, I would have to create a private variable first rather than a public variable, and I'm going to call this my%, and this is going to be the actual decimal value we are going to use internally to reference the percentage values. So when this value is 1, it means 100%, and 0.5 is 50%, and so on. And then what we need to do is we need to create a property that will control and validate the values assigned to this variable. Now to do this, I'm going to type public float, and I'm going to call this %, and then I'm going to type the opening and closing braces. And we have to, inside this block, type two functions, a get and a set function. So I'm going to call this get here, and I'm going to call this set. Now the get function, or the get block, that is responsible for returning this percentage value. So when somebody tries to access our percentage variable, remember they can only access the public version and not the private version. So when they try to access the percentage variable, then they will get the value that is output by the get block. If they try to assign the percentage a value, then it will run through the set block. So in the get block, we want to return the value of my%, but we want to multiply that value by 100, because here this is the decimal representation of the percentage, and here we want to give the complete form. So a value of 1, which means 100%, will be multiplied by 100, and 1 times 100 is 100, so we get 100%. If this value were 0.75, it will be multiplied by 100, and we would get out the value 75 to indicate 75%. In the set block, we're going to be doing pretty much a similar thing. We're going to be setting the value of my%, but we need to set it to the value divided by 100. So if somebody puts in for this value a value of 75 for 75%, that would be divided by 100, and the result is assigned to our internal variable my% here. So I'm going to test this, and I can do this quite easily in the update function. I'm just going to print to the console the value of my% like so. And in the start function, I'm just going to assign this, the public property % here. I'm just going to assign it the value of 75, just like that. And in that assignment operation, this set function will be called automatically. So here in the start function, we're assigning the public property percent the value of 75, and in the update function, we're going to be printing its value to the console. So I'm going to press Ctrl S on the keyboard to save those changes. And straight away when I press play, if you take a look in the console, you'll see here we're getting the value 0.75, which is the decimal version of the value that we entered. So I'm just going to stop that and clear the console. So you can see from MonoDevelop that it is successfully converting those values. Now of course if I print out the public version of percent, not my percent, then we will in fact get the value of 75, because here in the return statement it is multiplied by 100. So I'm going to press play, and again in the console you can see now we're getting 75 and not 0.75. Now this is all very well and good, and this is the way we can use properties to validate our values. But one thing I do want to show you, if I just minimize MonoDevelop and select our camera in the scene, if you look at the My Properties component, you will see that our public property is not visible in the Object Inspector. And this is one of the disadvantages of using C# properties. In short, C# properties cannot be shown or displayed or edited from the Object Inspector. So keep that in mind when using properties.